Once more, welcome everyone. It is very nice to see all of you. Now, it's the time to ask any questions if you have any. And until the question appears to any one of you, we can just keep the mind nicely relaxed on the breathing.
To become more centered and done meditation as part of yoga. I've never done it as a separate session, so this strengthens me.
All right. Okay.
Head feels very heavy.
Yes. Yes. You mean like tired or just a heavy feeling?
Just heavy.
Yes. So what is your question?
Not exactly a question, just looking to explore more the practice of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe incorporate it in daily life. And do you have any recommendations for people that are starting out?
Yeah. Okay, so to summarize, you've been practicing meditation in combination with doing yogasana practice, I suppose, and never done it really in a separate way, just for the sake of training the mind. And you would like to know how to integrate meditation into everyday life, how to kind of start up a practice. Is that right? Yeah?
Right.
So similar question was just the last session. I haven't uploaded it yet, but was exactly basically the same question, like how to get your practice started, but there's always ways to explore it from a different angle and to maybe see what there is that can help us to build a practice. And one of the primary things, of course, is the question that brings us to the practice. Like, why would we practice, right? Why would I sit down every day and look at my mind? What's the reason? Why would I stabilize the mind or train it or build a certain skill in the mind? Why would I bother doing that? And I think the answer is pretty much the same with everything. Why are we doing things? Why are we creating things? Why do we train ourselves? Why do we build muscle? Why do we eat healthy and so forth? Why do we do all that? I'd say because we generally desire happiness. We want to be at ease, we want to feel good, we want to be well. We want the good stuff. Whatever that means for you. We're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for some form of improvement. Feeling happy, feeling better. I usually just call it happiness, to make it simple. And on the other hand, we're also quite busy the whole day long trying to avoid suffering, avoiding pain. That's why we shift our bodies. Trying to avoid suffering in the future. That's why we are thinking a lot. Trying to plan out our lives, and get some idea of stability, safety, security. All that because we don't want to suffer. We're all afraid of suffering. Nobody in this room here is is out this evening to encounter some hardship or some suffering or pain. If you could avoid it, you would. Right? And we're mostly busy trying to avoid it. So in the practice of meditation, the issue of suffering and happiness is central. In fact, the Buddha has summarized his entire body of teachings, which is a lot of teachings. It's 84,000 teachings he has given through the course of his life. Now, he has summarized them. He said this, both formally and now, I have only taught suffering and the end of it. So what is suffering coming to an end? This is what you know as happiness. This is what you experience as a nice feeling. Feeling fulfilled for a short moment of time, getting what you want. It's the end of the pressure of wanting. As long as we're wanting, we're lacking something, and as soon as we get it, the suffering of wanting comes to an end, so we experience that as nice. Same thing goes the other way around. If you don't want something, you're resisting it, you're pushing it away, and then it ends. And so the not wanting actually falls away. We experience that as nice. Every single time when the mind is not engaged in wanting or not wanting, it is at ease. And every single time when the mind is engaged in wanting and not wanting, then it becomes tense. It contracts. And this is not philosophy. This is something that all of you can observe if you just look. But for most of us, the tool to look with is very unstable. It is highly untrained. So we are unable to actually look consistently at one thing. The mind is constantly shifting, thinking. The attention is all over the place. So in order to understand the issue of suffering and the end of suffering, we first have to somehow stabilize the tool that we are looking with. You all know old home videos. When someone was filming something and it was an untrained person that never learned how to film something, they were just following their eyes. And then if you watch the video, you get this dizzy feeling because it's constantly moving, everything is constantly shaking, right? So it's the same with the mind. We're unable to see things as they actually are because the mind is continuously lost in those things. It is identified with those things, it chases those things, and it holds those things. So it is continuously unrested. So you mentioned the word feeling centered, being in your middle. With meditation practice, you will slowly become more calm. The mind will become more centered. Means it is unaffected by the surrounding noise. The noise of your emotions, the noise of your thoughts, the noise of things around you like sounds and other people and what they do and the world and all that. So there's something inside of you that is rather unaffected by that. It is able to stay calm and relaxed. And within that calmness and within that relaxed space within yourself, there is a lot of happiness. It feels wonderful, quite naturally. It is not a fabricated, made-up happiness. Okay, so most people think of happiness as something that must be made somehow, right? And in a way, that's true. You kind of have to work. You have to do things to get a certain form of happiness, but ultimately, true happiness arises, the more suffering is falling away from you. If a little bit of suffering falls away from you, you're a little bit more happy. If a lot of suffering falls away from you, you're very happy. You feel very much at ease. And it's a very different kind of quality of happiness than the one that we're probably used to. The one that has to do with consumption, getting what you want, getting rid of what you don't want, etc. It's a very different quality. It is charged with calmness, with peace, and yet it feels wonderful. There is nothing you can compare that to. In fact, I would even say, people who are not meditating, they have no idea what happiness actually is. Just like somebody who has never trained their muscles has no idea what it means to do 50 push-ups. They just don't know. It's far away from them. They might philosophize about it, they might think about it, but it's like thinking about food. It doesn't make you feel full. Right? I could tell you about this awesome restaurant where you get this amazing dish, and then you start thinking about it. It's like nothing compared to actually sitting there and eating. The same with meditation. Most people have absolutely no idea what happiness really means. All we know is these kind of fleeting sensations that arise and pass. So the way we experience life is, for most people who have an untrained mind, just an up and down. Sometimes you feel great, sometimes you're not feeling great. Does that ring true? Can you copy that? Is that your experience, or are you permanently happy? Are you in a constant state of bliss that doesn't ever change? And that would never be experienced as boring, because boredom is suffering. Some people have the idea, well, if I would be always blissed out, then it would be boring. Well, then it wouldn't be bliss if it would be boring. Then it would be boredom. Right? So we don't know what that means. But the more you train, the more you will see the direction of the training that this takes. Like if you do more and more push-ups, you will notice, wow, you're getting stronger. You're able to carry things that are a bit more heavy. Your posture changes, you become more upright. There's all these kind of developments that you notice because of your training, right? You're doing yoga. So due to your yoga practice, you notice all these various changes in your body and how they integrate into your everyday life, how you do things differently, how you walk differently, how you climb stairs differently. Have you noticed? And how you open doors differently, how you breathe differently, how you sit in your car differently, how you hold the steering wheel differently. All due to your yoga practice. You become sensitive to changes that are happening. These changes are absolutely unavailable to those who never practice yoga. They don't know what that means. They can't relate. They don't have the taste that you have due to your experience, right? Same with meditation. When you're building the muscle of happiness, so to say, then happiness increases within you due to certain causes, because you let go of suffering, right? So the whole practice of meditation can be described as that process of letting go of burden, letting go of suffering, more and more and more. And as you let go, the suffering that you will encounter will be ever more refined, becomes more and more subtle, harder to detect. Like let's say when you're at some certain stage in your practice, what you're trying to let go of for the beginner would be absolutely impossible to detect. They couldn't even feel it. They wouldn't even notice it. That it takes years of refinement of the mind to be actually able to spot certain ways that you are sabotaging yourself. Ways of thinking, ways of feeling, the way you're simply directing your attention or holding a personality up, playing roles, etc. It's very, very subtle. For example, delusions such as thinking, I know this, I know that, feeling very secure in your knowledge, all that, it's suffering. But we wouldn't recognize it as suffering because we don't know what it feels like when it's not there. The absence of it is blissful, but we don't know what it feels like, the absence of it. So we have nothing to compare it against. We have only our thoughts and our imagination, our conclusions, etc. Can you let them go too? They're suffering too. But I'm talking about things to let go of that for most people who have never trained their mind are absurd to let go of. Why would I let go of thought? Why would I let go of conclusion? How can you say thinking is suffering? How can you say such a thing? I love thinking. I love to dream. I love to visualize. All that. I love it. This is like having someone that tells you about their favorite restaurant. They've never eaten in another restaurant. They've never encountered a chef that cooks that dish to perfection. They're just very attached to their little restaurant that they know. They say, here, I love eating here. This is the best food that exists. And I say, have you tried that other guy's fried rice? Have you tried it? No, I have no interest. This is the best one that exists. So how would a person like that let go of their fried rice and move on to something better if they are so convinced that their fried rice is the right fried rice? It's pretty subtle. So we have to let go of our great fried rice and maybe then move on with somebody that shows you this better restaurant with this amazing chef, and then for the first time in your life you taste amazing fried rice. What happens next? You let go of the other restaurant naturally. It's not even a drama. It's out of question. So because you have something better, an experience that is quite amazing, now you have a contrast. Now you can say, well, compared to the fried rice that I'm eating right now, the other one is suffering. So if I'm telling you thinking is suffering, maybe you can relate. Maybe your practice is so stable already that you penetrate through to that level where you can see that, and you've let go of thought already, so you see, wow, that's nice when I do that. So let's start with the first thing to let go of in our practice. The very first thing that's stressful. And it's just basic life stuff. Just don't do things that you know are harming you. It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? And do things that you know are good for you. It's pretty easily said, right? I say it so easily. But it's so hard to do. Why? Because somehow in a weird way we seem to be quite addicted to harming ourselves. Why? I wonder. I think it has something to do with not really liking ourselves, or believing deep down inside that we don't matter, that my presence doesn't really matter in this world. So many people, so many things. It's like I don't really matter. I don't really feel that I'm important in this bigger whole of the universe. I don't really, what role do I play? Do I really matter? Do my actions matter? Does that make a difference if I do it? It's kind of nihilism, right? Or maybe it's just really don't liking yourself because you've done so many things in your life that you would look back at and feel uncomfortable about. Shameful, guilty, not really liking your own company very much, something like that. So letting go of what actually sabotages yourself and harms yourself is a big step. And it's the beginning of practice. You kind of need to clean up your life in order to install meditation. You can't build meditation if there is not a good foundation for it. And the foundation is what you do every day and what you don't do every day. That's the foundation. How do you live your relationships? Not only with the ones you love, but with everyone. Like, how do you approach people? What do you think of the world? What do you think of other people? How do you think about them? When you're sitting in the shopping mall, you have a cup of coffee and you watch people walk by, how do you think of them? What kind of person are you? If your thoughts would be on loudspeaker, I always mention that, if your thoughts would be blaring out of your ears and everyone could hear them, would that be comfortable for you? Or would you rather keep them a secret? It starts there. Basic, everyday life stuff. How do you get up in the morning? What do you do first? How do you spend your free time? If you have nothing to do, how do you kill time? Do you actually kill it? Or are you able to appreciate it? How much silence is there during your day? Me time. And I mean like proper me time. Time that's just there for yourself. Where you don't do anything other than being with yourself. Not looking into books, not looking into the phone, not looking into TV, not looking at anything other but yourself. Are there such times? How do you go to bed at night? What do you do? What's your routines? What are your last thoughts before you fall asleep? What do you say as a last thing to your partner that you might not see anymore the next day? Because who knows if we make it through the night. Do you have unfinished business? Are you ready to die tonight? These are important questions. They determine whether we are spending our life in a way that we feel good about or not. And if you feel good about yourself, and you feel happy about what you do and what you don't do, by the end of the day, you have self-respect. You're guiding yourself well, you're supporting yourself, you're there for yourself. That is an environment in which meditation can truly grow. But if you're somehow in conflict with yourself, you don't really like yourself, etc., by the end of the day you kind of just go from phone to closed eyes. You just kind of shut off. You don't want to see anything other. Just go to sleep, and wake up groggy the next morning. First thing you do is look into the phone. It's constantly avoiding yourself. As soon as you have a bit of quiet time, you put in earphones, putting music in. Like constantly loading the mind with stuff. Because it's really hard to be with yourself, isn't it? Otherwise, why would we do so many things that are constantly keeping our attention away from ourselves? There is no other reason than discomfort with our own silence. We literally can't be with ourselves anymore. And it becomes worse and worse and worse. If you look at young children, age 5, age 4, they already start tick, 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 tapping away. This is devastating to see. From a young age, they don't even have a chance anymore to explore what it means to be bored and to discover creativity, for example. To ask questions. To be enchanted by something as simple as a leaf or a breeze or the beach. Connecting with people around them. So installing these kind of habits is certainly not a good idea for the mind to grow up as a healthy adult. So we have these habits. Can we make them better? How do you spend your free time? What do? Do you avoid yourself or do you actually be with yourself? If you are with yourself, the first thing you will encounter is discomfort. And that's okay. And it's normal. There'll be boredom. There'll be the urge to do something else. There'll be fidgeting around. You just kind of don't want to do it. You don't want to just sit and do nothing. You feel like you're wasting time. Feel like it has no purpose, just sitting around, loafing by the riverside. Just watching clouds pass by. It's like I'm wasting time. I'm not productive. You're not consuming everything, really. So, create such spaces. Watch how you spend your time. One of the best questions you can begin your practice with is a question that the Buddha recommends his students actually to continuously ask themselves is, days and nights fly by, what am I doing right now? Because whatever you are doing, whether it's in your mind or in your speech or with your body, you're getting better at it. So if you find yourself complaining about life and how difficult it is, whether you make it in the future, etc., you're getting better at that. Is that what you want to get better at? Like watching news that make you feel fearful and anxious and all that, like continuously every day consuming more and more news that make you fearful and anxious, you're just getting better at fear and anxiety. Is that what you want? Does that do the world a service? One more person full of fear and anxiety. Does that do our relationships any service? Those who are close to us, right? So start right there, asking yourself, what am I doing right now? What is my direction? How am I oriented right now? This is such a good practice. And on top of that, ask yourself, what if this is my last day? How am I oriented right now? What if this is my last day? It will create a very fertile ground for meditation practice. Now your practice has some solid purpose. You really do it to benefit yourself. You really build it with diligence, with discipline, and with pleasure in it. Like when you build something that you feel is meaningful to do. Then you're even able to do it, even you're not feeling like doing it. You do it because it's good for you, and you know it's good for you. You're not doing it because you're feeling like this or feeling like that. You do it because it's good. Then you can start building consistency, right? So you do your 15 minutes every morning, 15 minutes every night. Then don't let that be it. Make it 25, 30, 45. Make it an hour. Sitting still and quiet. Your life will change massively if you do that. The more you can bear yourself, the more you can sit in silence, the more power you bring into the day. Things cannot carry you away. You're not losing yourself in whatever kind of dramas. You stay well-centered, well-energized throughout the day. The day has a good beginning, it has a good end. It is something so worthwhile cultivating. It is something so incredibly good to do. There's absolutely nothing to blame about it. But sitting quietly with yourself, letting go of your pain, letting go of your suffering, giving yourself a break, caring for yourself. What better way to spend time could there be? Because this then translates into your relationships. It translates into what you do during your day. It's the benefit that you cultivate within yourself that flows out into the world. That's how important you are, and how important this practice is. Because whether benefit emits from you or suffering is emitting from you, that is kind of up to you. We don't need to look very far and blame the world and say the world is such a bad place and these people are so bad and they must be banned and they must be cancelled and whatnot. Look at yourself. It's a hard look to take, but it's probably the most honest thing we could ever do that would actually make a difference. looking at ourselves, seeing, wow, so much hate, so much anger, so much sadness, so much disappointment, and I spill it all out into this world through my behavior, my actions. Could I stop that before I demand others to stop it? It's so important. It all starts with you, it all starts with me, it starts right here in this moment. What is your direction? How do you orient yourself? What are you doing right now? And is it your last day today? Will you make it back home? Do you have any unfinished business? Anything that needs to be said or done? Say it and do it. And then slowly you'll be so much at ease with yourself that when you sit down and you start training the mind, it'll be easy. Because it's important what we do you sit there for 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at nighttime, and then you spend hours in between doing things. So that has to be balanced. If the meditation practice really needs to bear fruit, it has to be in alignment with the other hours of the day. They have to support each other. Yeah. It's kind of all that comes to mind, and I think it's kind of enough, isn't it? Yes. Thank you for the good question as well. Thank you for coming today. Have a good night and a wonderful weekend.